My name is Ryan and I'm in recovery. People often ask why I do that little intro. I never kind of planned to do it. It was more that when you go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting, it's like a sharing circle, and when you share, you say, before you start speaking, you introduce yourself. It's normally, my name is, and I'm an alcoholic, or my name is, and I'm an addict. I've always preferred to say, my name is Ryan and I'm in recovery, partly because I've always found it hard to say that I'm an addict. I kind of almost get stuck in my throat a little bit, but also because I try and feel like it's better to talk in a more positive way, like I'm recovering. I think some of the language around NA and AA can be a bit regressive, so I feel like saying recovery is a bit more like hopeful. I'm working towards something, I'm recovering. Yeah, I was thinking about that, and it also just got me thinking about the whole idea of like labelling yourself an addict and what that involves. I think a lot of people that are in addiction, or just, maybe they're drinking a lot more than they want to, maybe finding it difficult because they every time they drink they end up picking up coke, and they resent that, but they can't quite fix it. And I think a lot of the time them sort of people will stop and ask themselves if they're addicted or if they're an addict, and they'll say no. They'll say, I can stop when I want to. There's one guy I was chatting to on here that was like, oh yeah, I take it every day, but I'm not addicted. I was like, I mean, if you take it every day you probably are addicted. But I think that whole label of addiction, the stigma attached to it, what addiction is to people that maybe aren't that familiar with it or haven't maybe encountered it in their life, is a problem. Because if you've got a good job, a good relationship, and everything in your life is going quite well, but yet you've also got this thing that's taken away from your life, like taking too much drugs, drinking too much, whatever it may be, you'll in your head justify it by saying, well, I'm not an addict because everything in my life's quite good. And that was, I think, a big reason I stayed in the patterns I was in for so long, because I was successful professionally, I was engaged to be married, I owned a house, all that kind of stuff, and they were the sort of gymnastics in my head that I would do. I'd be like, oh, I think this is this problem, I need to get fixed. But I was like, but actually, I've still got all these things going on in my life that are positive, so it's fine, I don't need to get it fixed. And it wasn't really until it really escalated and I hit rock bottom that I got help. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. They don't feel like they need to ask for help until it's too late, until they've lost the job, they've lost the house, they've lost the relationship. And I guess I just kind of want to say to people, like, don't be looking around you and comparing yourself to others and say, oh well, that person's situation's worse than mine. They've lost their house, blah blah blah. I haven't, so therefore I don't need to get help. Because it could be that you're just on the beginning of that slippery slope that leads you to getting a lot worse. And if you were to be honest with yourself, ask for help, reach out, you could get a hold on this thing that's affecting your life before it really does permanent damage. There's certainly so many times in my life where I've really been considering telling someone when I was in addiction and I didn't, or I'd kind of reach out half-heartedly. Like I remember a couple of years ago kind of telling my sister I had this thing with coke, but I kind of just gave her this like watered down version, and then ended up kind of just shying away from it and not really following it up. But I often think if only I'd taken that proper step to get the help earlier, maybe I wouldn't have had to give up the music industry. Maybe I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now. I wouldn't have had to go to rehab. I was so ashamed and afraid to ask, but that ended up that inability to ask for help and be really truly honest with myself has cost me a lot. And I think I get a lot of people messaging me on here kind of asking for advice, but aren't really willing to take real steps to get help. And I think you really just need to weigh it up. It's like, in your heart of hearts, you're going to know how much of a hold this thing's got on you. And if you are really, really honest in the cold light of day, you probably aren't going to be able to knock it by yourself. You probably are going to need help. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you can lead a better quality of life and be happier.